Well, hello, everybody. What happened to my intro? I don't know what happened to my intro. Guys, can somebody just give me the heads up that you can see me, please? Because this is very weird. I played the intro and nothing happened. Um, but hey, happy Monday, you all. I hope you've all had a fantastic weekend. Um, I had a little bit of a break from doing live shows last week, but I still hope you enjoyed. Well, actually, we were on Monday night with Beverly. No, we weren't. We were on Saturday, actually. And I'm glad I'm loud and clear. Thank you. And yeah, and so, but we're back again this week with lives, but I hope you enjoyed the content we put out there anyway. So, yeah, without any further ado, because Madame is in the back of the house and not in the back of the house anymore, and we've also started on Safa time today. You know, we love Safa time. Safa, by the way, for those of you who don't know, South African, SAFFA. We refer to ourselves as Saffas, South Africans. It's
Yes,
kind
it
of like
is
a slang
indeed.
because a lot of the yeah, because a lot of the Afrikaans people battle with a lot of the pronunciations. So they'll say we South African, like we South African.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's kind of where that comes from. Yeah, we South African, you know. So we South.
That's where it comes from.
Anyway,
Safford.
indeed. Welcome, beautiful Beverly. How are you? I'm very happy to have you back this week again. I know we missed you last week,
Oh,
Monday.
thank you.
How are you, Han?
Yes, fine, much better. Enjoying the heat, and at least the heat has gone down a little bit here in Florida. It's not as bad as it was, so you can actually go out and walk outside without fear of landing on your bottom, which happened to me, which is quite funny, but nonetheless, it's fine.
Sometimes you need
How are
to
you,
land on your
Shanti?
bum, right?
Yeah,
Hey,
well,
I'm
not.
cool. You can see
So you
there's
haven't.
different things happening in the background. Yeah, I know
Yes.
we seem
Yeah.
to have a bit of a lag.
So what do you have?
But
You've
no,
changed everything up. It's all changed. What did you do?
I just really moved. I put a new couch in there, but it meant I had to move my entire house around or lounge around and my house too. Um, and yeah, but it's really cool. It's actually where things just fit now, but I'm still looking at backgrounds. I think I might get a green screen. Who knows? But I was very surprised that you all can see my picture there now, right? Normally
Mm.
we just got the feet and everyone says, Shanti, what picture is that? I mean, can you believe somebody even says to me once, what creepy art is that behind you? It's so creepy. Please, can you remove it when you do shows?
Oh Lord, that's so. Oh well, there we go. It's still there. Cheers for that,
I'm like,
Chanti.
I'm taking it off right now, especially for you. Definitely, I'm removing my art just for you. Absolutely. God, how dare I have art that offends you?
That's creepy. Mm.
Yeah, it's the
Oh gosh.
thinking, man. So she probably
Well,
didn't
as you
like to
see,
think much.
the toes. It's the toes. Mm.
Yeah, the toes. Anyway, um, welcome everybody. It's so awesome to have you all here again, and you can still see we've got our we got our birthday background on. We just turned 5 last week. Wow, that was so cool actually. And you know, I have to tell you, when I recorded that video, I was so emotional. I could not say half of the things I wanted because you all saw there I was crying in front of the whole wide world. But it was amazing because there were so many other things that I wanted to say. And as we go along, I'm going to as well. But the big thing for me was, you know, when I went back to going back, I was 5 years old and I went to sub A. And for the first 5 days, I could not make a five. And for 5 days, it took me to finally be able to trace the five and make the five. And I could never ever understand that. And then when we turned 5 on Ara last week, suddenly I just all came tumbling into my consciousness. First 5 years on this channel were touch and go, I've got to tell you. I mean, how we are still alive and kicking and standing is a miracle. I promise you guys, one day, 5 years from now, I will do a show on what happened behind the scenes with Aquarius Rising Africa the first 5 years. I won't do it now. I will do it somewhere down the line. I will not forget, but I will definitely do a show, because when we see what we've come through, I know my own soul was not sure whether we could do 5 years. Do you know, and after I recorded that, Ask Poor Mornay, I just sat and I just cried. I said, I cannot believe we got here. I cannot believe it. Because, I mean, spiritual warfare is real, let me tell you. It's real. I've never engaged in that in my life. I'm just like, oh, F off all of you, man. I don't even engage with most of these things. I just give it to God. I really do. And because spiritual law says, unless I'm engaging with you and kind of antagonizing you, there's no reason for you to come for me. So every single time I just say, take it, God, show me what I need to see. I have no fight with this person or these people. And it's been amazing, and every time it's happened, we just have a bigger glow up. And here we are glowing up with the best of the best. Hello, Beverli. So nice to see you. I feel like I've been talking for hours. So let me be quiet. So let me be quiet. And we're going to be talking very much about a very important topic, the crystalline structure of, we obviously created from God's beautiful crystalline structure, the earth, animals, the grids, us humans. But when children get abused to the extent that they do, it crushes them and literally changes the makeup of their DNA. And as we know, the mother cell or the daughter cell is replicated from the mother cell. And when the mother cell is not healthy, it's going to replicate a whole lot of unhealthy cells, right? So the experience becomes very, very distorted, And so you are truly just one of these amazing overcomers who I'm still trying to. I've got PTSD from you being bitten by a fucking vampire. I just have to tell you, I've got severe PTSD. So I hope I'm carrying your PTSD for you. Every time I think about that, I want to die. Oh my God. Anyway.
Oh, yeah, they're not great, I must admit, but that's why when we go, we're busy planning the trip. We're going to go to the Pensacola vampire area, which is up there a couple of hours, and then obviously we're doing the longer trip where we're going to do all sorts of things. And I've been very lucky. Lots of viewers have been sending in via email places that they have been, so that they're saying, well, try this one and try this one. And the Poison Lounge is one of them, which we're trying to work that into the schedule and that. But it's really going to be a Friday, Saturday, leave on Sunday. Definitely. I mean, I don't want to be there more than 2 nights. I think 2 nights is pushing it. So, but the good thing is we'll have camera people and crew and everybody around. So, it's going to be a difficult one. If they see Nanny to the vampires arrive there, then and they want to do something, they're going to have a couple of folks to take on at the same time.
We're going to kick their asses, don't you worry. Those vampires are going to get their teeth and their asses kicked. No, they're not coming near you. You ain't no nanny for those creatures of the night anymore.
Not anymore.
I refuse to live with that PTSD for the rest of my life.
So cute. Friggin' cute. That's brilliant. Yeah. Well, let's hope that didn't trigger anybody else. Please God, it doesn't.
Anyway, Bev, let's chat about exactly what we were saying. There's no doubt in my mind that, we can talk about bloodline kids and kids with spiritual gifts that get chosen by these creatures of the night to leech off, right? Um, but there's very specific energy, actually, right, of these children that are specifically targeted. So maybe you can tell us more about that. And as I always say, to me, it's a miracle beyond miracles that you guys have come through what you have, um, can sit, you have relationships again, you can love again,
Yeah.
you can forgive. It is really such a beautiful thing. So for me, it's like, from your perspective, and there's no doubt in my mind that you are definitely one of these um, crystalline kids, is what I like to call them. Um, is a bit on the low side. Sorry, your volume is a bit on the low side. Do I need to up my volume? Just double
Yeah,
check on
maybe put
that.
it up a little bit if you can, if you can. But I'm very pleased
Okay,
that
thank you.
you
Let me
you
just
you had seen it. Yeah, it's good that
okay,
that you
carry
have a
on.
fantastic grasp of the crystalline structure of the children, and this is over the years. I first came into contact with the crystalline structure of children that had been part of the CSA and the SRA, as well as those that had been moved, transported, and also utilized differently, particularly those that those higher up echelons that decide that these are the children that are going to be moving on to the snuff movies that they were shooting at the time, because that energy during the last stages before they expire, that energy is very obvious. And when you start looking at and tying up, it's quite strange, because when you join the dots, finally join all the dots, it's like this wow aha moment where you think, oh my goodness, bloody hell, look at this. This is the type of child, this is the type of person, and then you can see exactly what that perfect energy is that they're going for, and that is part of those specific children. And tracing back, I mean, there's only one lady that I know now who was with me through all of this nonsense, and she lives I think she now lives in Portugal. And I'd said to her, I asked her about her blood group. I asked her about spiritually, how was she? And everything tracks. Everything tracks. She's an A negative. So she has a negative RH negative blood type. And she was always brought up in a very spiritual environment. And she was basically taken from a very young age. And her patch was, she was forced to meet people at King's Cross Station in London, and she would have to service them there was 2 or 3 clubs around London that they would have to take her to with whoever it was that the job was going to be. And she said she'd never thought of that before. And she's now about 62, maybe 63, somewhere there. And she said she never thought about it that way, that her blood type, as well as the way that she's, and still to this day, even though she's been through so much, she's very, very shiny. And she said, I've never thought about it that way. And this is what we need to start looking at, is what else, apart from the innocence of the children, what else are they after when they target these lovely children, which they're still doing to this day, all across Africa, all across the world. What are they looking for? And they go for, unfortunately, the individuals that have a long line of native type of tribes. So this is where we see the American Indian First Nation individuals. We see that there's this huge spike now, that they're so active. Not only are they taking young children, female American Native Indian children, but they're also going as far as taking older women that are of childbearing age, they're taking them as well. We see that in South Africa, exactly the same thing. They're taking the children with the golden eyes, those that have different types of backgrounds, and those that have got the native lineage in them, those that have not been watered down so much, because that crystalline structure within the children is at its heightened from the year 2000 until now. All of that crystalline structure is already activated. So where we've got the rainbow children, we've got the indigo children, all of that activation has been upping and upping and upping and upping, so that a lot of children now are arriving awake. So can you imagine how valuable that soul and that innocence of that child is? And that's why it's good for us to explain to parents what to look for, how to understand how these awful people work, how do fixers work, how do finders work, how do spotters work. These are all different categories of peoples that work within this particular framework of finding these crystal children and finding the children that have got that advanced spirituality that hasn't awoken yet. Because remember, if they take them early, if they haven't awoken and they can get them before the age of 13, guess what? They can shut them down completely. Less light workers for us.
Or they manipulate that energy. I wish it was only shutting them down, but it's actually taking that and manipulating it and inverting and weaponizing the kids' own gifts against them, right? So it's like, instead of like you, for example, having a God-given amazing gift of remote viewing, you know, me, I'm an animal communicator, for example. I will help people find the animals. I will help animals when they're sick or lost or caught up in fires or all sorts of things. But I also know how easy it is to use an animal, if you're an animal communicator, to spy and for witchcraft. So again, it's using the same energy, but again, it would be using it for an inverted purpose. And the more we obviously hear about these things, it's not even stealing your energy. It's not even being an energy vampire. I mean, like, it's not, a tick you can still live with on your body, right? But it's when it gives you tick bite fever that there's a problem. You know what I'm saying? So it's like when they've taken over you, that's the problem. And because then they get to manipulate and do exactly what they want. And these guys are energy masters. We know they are. They know exactly the universal laws. They know exactly how energy works. They know all the principles that they are, because of course we're dealing with the fallen ones who've come down with infinite knowledge and information from the divine and use that, obviously, in its inverted way. So all we really have to do is flip the script. We just have to flip that script. And that's exactly what you're saying, is teaching kids and reminding them of who they are, because that's the only way to really stop it. We have to rescue the ones that are in places, right? But it's about reminding them of who they are before it even gets to that point.
Yeah, and it's necessary, because a lot of individuals are sort of saying, well, where can there be electromagnetic crystalline structures across our bodies? But actually it impacts our lives every single day, and those are part of the crystals that is in our body, but they're so minute, and they're like at a liquid crystal level. And I think sometimes I think that their cell membrane also collects some of that energy and some of the crystalline. It's called bioelectric energy. And this is something I noticed, that when they were taking these children, and when they used to ask, when I got older, they used to ask me to kind of babysit them and look after them and things. But, because we're over 60% water in our body, that crystalline structure will hold the trauma. It will hold all of the communication. It will maintain itself. But because it mirrors everything that's happening, those crystalline minerals found within ourselves and our bodies will resonate with those crystals. And it will resonate with the other crystals of the bad people, the ones that are doing these awful traumatic aspects. And those qualities of the crystalline area it removes slowly but surely, removing the light and lessening and pushing it down and lessening the light. So I wanted to kind of explain what happens to a child or even an adult or someone that's 13, say children and young people. So young people up to from 13, say to 16 or even 18, and how that electromagnetic field in the subtle body and the frequencies, how they change, and how trauma of that size and that level, which is like bombarding, and because it's really awful, especially when they first start with you as a child. You have no idea. And that's why they provide substances which they put in your water or in your cool drink. And that then allows us to disconnect from that deeply connected natural energy in each of our cells. And that's how they're able to introduce that dark frequency that starts coming in, the lower frequencies. And it's very difficult then it means that the child is not able to take where the crystals are in their body and the electromagnetic field, because it's not in harmony anymore. It's disharmonious. And combining those means that when that child is returned home, they can't take those specific vibrations. They can't help themselves to rebalance and harmonize those frequencies because they're children. They don't understand it. And this is what they count on, is that they can't work with the crystals. They can't work with sound healing. They can't do grounding. They can't do all those sort of things because they're too small. They're too young. They just don't know at a spiritual level. And that's what they count on. And I kind of realized a few years ago, I thought, oh, okay, I see what you're doing. I see what you're doing. Because part of that physical nature is being able to rebalance. And because they're so young, even just being able to tell somebody about what's happening to them, even that small function of being able to say what is happening to them will release some of that frequency. But because of the way that the abusers push everybody, be a good girl or be a good boy, don't say anything, this is what will happen to you. I mean, they literally put the fear of God into everybody. And this is that energy that replaces it. So that lovely crystalline energy that you start off with as a little child, that's what they start replacing with the dark warrior energy, the dark energy that comes into this crystal structure. It's quite complicated, but that is how it works.
It totally makes sense. And especially, with the separation, because it's, they're obviously doing the whole separation from their source, right? Parents, love. So there's isolation. I mean, especially if they're doing the grooming, where one parent is like, oftentimes you'll have, especially the father, that for the first 18 months will be the main parent for the child. And then he actually grapes that child at 18 months old. And that's the first dissociation, and that's the trust that child has built up with the father as the main parent. And then that trust is annihilated and destroyed in the worst possible way. I mean, imagine that. What is, when you talk about the stuff they put into the cold drink or their water, what is that? Do you know? Is it like sort of rehypnol?
It was, in those days, it was a funny little tablet. It was actually a tablet that was like a triangle, and it was blue. And I remember it because I used to see them taking spoons and crushing them and then putting them into the Kool-Aid, or, because we used to dip our fingers into the Kool-Aid and wiggle them around and be eating it from the packet, which sounds terrible, but that's what we used to do. And we put it on our tongue and be eating the Kool-Aid from the packet. So they would do that, and then because they would have our trust by giving us each Kool-Aid packets, so that we could eat it with our fingers and end up with a red finger. Mine was always a red finger because I liked the strawberry one. But everybody had different ones, purple ones from the blackberry, and you'd be eating that. But then what they would do, very, very clever, they would come and they would make up a big jug of like red Kool-Aid, or they'd make up a big one of the purple Kool-Aid. And already inside that water with the Kool-Aid mixed in it was already those little triangular purpley blue types of tablets that they'd crushed and put it in there. So they're very clever. They give us all the Kool-Aid in the little packets. And in those years, everybody was walking around with the Kool-Aid packet. The people at school were going with Kool-Aid packets to school and sticking their finger in, so much so that the school would actually complain. And so these kids have all got blue mouths or pink mouths or red mouths because they're eating Kool-Aid like jelly or Jello out of the packet. And that's what they would do. They would give us those, let us enjoy, the Kool-Aid in the packet. And then they would pour the Kool-Aid, put last bits of Kool-Aid in front of you, swizz it all around with a spoon, put it in your plastic cups, and you would not think that blue tablet had been crushed and put into that water that you are drinking, because you can't taste it. Kool-Aid is like it's got a very funny tanniny type taste, and I think that's why
Kool-Aid is disgusting. It's so horrible. I can't imagine anyone ever liking Kool-Aid. It's really, really nasty. So that's probably why I was sick. I wouldn't have had the Kool-Aid. But
lots of the children do, though.
Yeah, no, I'm sure. So basically, the kids would there. But where would this be? Would this be at a party, at a school? Where would this be that the kids are being dragged to get taken to where? Would this be just at a function where pedos are hanging out?
Yeah, it could be any of those. It could also be if there was one of the fixers had been given a job to go to, there would be like a holding area at one of the what can we call them, the adults that are attracted to children, them at one of their houses. You'd always have a pedo Saturday, and a pedo Saturday or Friday night would be where my handler would go and pick up. And I often used to go with them, especially in Cape Town. We used to go down, I think it was near the Strand, somewhere at the back. There used to be some really old little places that used to do like hiring out movies, hiring out the projector. So we'd have to go, we'd get the projector. And he always said to me, if you come with me, you can get the small reel. The small reel was the cartoons and the big reel was the movies. So we used to go in up these stairs, and I can clearly remember this whole back wall was just filled with projectors, and this most disgusting man came forward, and he was like, here we go, these are the movies we've got, and you want to choose your own cartoon for everybody. Here's all the cartoons. And I mean, I'm knee high to a grasshopper, so there's no way I can read all of what's on the strip. So they would have to say, this is a Looney Tunes or something? This is a Looney Tunes one, and it's got Bugs Bunny, it's got this, whatever. So I had to think, well, I know there's a whole group of kids coming to today. What do you think they would want? So I would choose like Looney Tunes, or I would choose something else, and that would be my choice of the small ones. And that's how clever they are. They say, well, you're the one that chose for the children. You're the one that chose the Kool-Aid. You're the one that had a lot to do with it, because you as a child, you're the one that chose the things that would give some comfort to those that were going to be abused. Absolutely horrific people. So even from a young age, they already start layering you with the guilt, because guilt and fear are more powerful energetically at a crystal level than love and compassion. they have more energy associated
Absolutely.
with them, and that's how they control you. So from that point of view, the Kool-Aid, yes, it was something that we were all using, but it was something that was comfortable for the children. And then we would go to these pedo parties where the projector would be there. We'd have a top on the floor with a blanket. They'd have the sheet up across the window. Basically, it would just be a carbon copy, literally, of whatever was happening in England. It's exactly the same. It's no different. Is there would be a small group of individuals, males, that would be invited to this property, and the story would be that they were going to either install a new kitchen floor or a new bathroom floor, or they were going to install, sliding doors, or they were going to fix the roof. That was always the story. I never heard any other different story. It was always those stories, which meant that the inhabitants of that property would be going out because of the terrible smell of the floor glue. In those days, I don't know what glue they were using, but whatever it was that they were putting down underneath the floor, it stank. It really stank. And there were so many of them. It was like 5 or 6 or 7. They used to finish putting the kitchen floor down, putting floor down upstairs in the bathroom. They'd finish that. They'd finished it literally in a couple of hours. Job done. Stinky, but job done. And then close everything off. And then that's what you'd have going on in the front room or the lounge. And that's what it would be. The curtains would be drawn. The sheet would be up. There's your projector getting ready. And then the children would eat their Kool-Aid packet, or they would eat whatever it is they've got. And then they'd start drinking whatever this medicine was. And by that time, they're still awake enough, but compliant. If they were told to sit, they would sit. If they were told to stand up, or or go upstairs or do whatever, they would be compliant. And so just enough to take the edge off, so that they wouldn't be fast asleep. And they're so clever, the doctors that are part of these rings, they know based on the weight of the child, based on the age of the child, just exactly how much they can put into the water that you're going to drink. And that's just enough to make everybody compliant. So that's how they deliver it. And then from there, they can see which children are the most compliant, which children don't kick up a fuss. So in other words, don't get ones like me that are asking 50,922 questions. Why? What must I do this for? No, I'm not doing it. But because I was affixed as direct responsibility, they had to put up with me. But if there was a child that was coming in to be used on jobs and was like me, they would say, this one's just too much. We're not going to touch her. So that would be it. And they would evaluate those that are particularly compliant, or the ones that are very popular. So there are some that have a particular type of child that they like, and that's where the money is. That's where the dosh is. So you get to see which of those children do as they're told, and how long does it wear off. And each child is different. Some children, it takes hours and hours and hours to wear off. Or like in my case, I'd become so used to all this rubbish that they used to put in the water that eventually you could see over time it would wear off within like 15, 20 minutes. And then I'd be big mouth again, boca grande, big mouth, starting with stuff, which they didn't want. So then they had to up it. But generally, the smaller children, it would be most of the day. And they wouldn't be able to say. What they would be able to say would be, oh, we watched a movie, Bugs Bunny, or I don't know, what's the other one that's the one that has "That's All Folks" at the end. One of those. That's what they would say, because that's all they could remember. They wouldn't be able to remember the rest. So it's extremely well organized.
That is so scary. I mean, that is so scary to think about. That's what they're doing to the kids. And it's true what you're saying. Oh, what did you do today? Oh, no, we just watched a movie. Like, is that all? Yeah. Wow.
And it becomes one of those situations where, I remember sometimes saying, when you have like home parties and there's a proper party, a birthday party, and I only have ever had in my entire life one. and that was when I was 6. And I remember him getting the films, and I looked at them and I looked at him and I thought, I'm sure we've seen this one. You know, you just know that you're going to see the same cartoon. So we had everybody there. Like birthday cake was in front of the fireplace, and we had a few of the little friends. And I was watching him because I thought, these are people that we know that come to the house. Please do not start taking these children. Please do not do that. And I was just, you know, when you've got a friend, these little friends, and you think, oh my God, don't let my dad be a monster and do this sort of thing. And this was it. I still thought of him in that way. I was still trying my best for him to be what I wanted him to be, and he was never going to be that. And then he put up the sheets, put all the pegs along the top, and put it on, and there it comes, you know, comes up. This is that particular one, and that was one that we'd seen already. And I'm like, what? So, but I can't say anything. I can't say to him, you put the same one up, because then the questions are going to be, hang on, how come have you seen this already? You know, how do you know what's going to happen in this cartoon? You know, and then when that's all folks came up at the end, and I was like, I've seen that one. And that for me was the dampener on the whole thing, because I knew that he'd obviously done a job somewhere else with others, because that projector and that small silver casing, that had come out of the car. So he'd obviously done another job somewhere else with other children, and that's what he'd used. And, you know, it's that sort of thing that you then start falling in. They're not just utilizing me. He's utilizing the same projector, the same movies, the same cartoons in the same canister to do other jobs. So you start realizing.
Where's his daughter? I mean, I know that you did have a sister. I'm just interested to know, and I understand obviously privacy, so I don't expect you to speak about some stuff you can't talk about. But
she moved to Canada with her family, and she took on a very strong religion, extremely strong religion, because I think she started with that religion. I think she was about 15. I was already gone from the house, so I think she might have been about 15 or 16. And she started with that religion. She chose the Jehovah's Witness religion, and she met a young chap. They met and they decided to marry. And then eventually she realized that South Africa wasn't going to do it for her because of knowing what had been going on. She was never pulled into that, because if you remember, I made the deal with him, you know, leave her alone. That one incident on the couch in SA, and I said, leave her alone. Instead of taking her to anything, you can take me. I will do that. Just leave her alone. Let her have her normal life. Let her do whatever she wants to do. Don't do that to her. It's bad enough. You've got me. I said, don't touch it. Leave her. Just leave her. And so she then eventually, after he died and after Christine died, they all immigrated to Canada.
So do you think he did leave her alone, though? You know, because to me, if he was such a prolific pedophile, he never left a single child alone. I can't imagine. And especially, you know, hey, this is speculation, but, you know, when you look at someone who then takes on such an extreme religion out of nowhere, seemingly nowhere, I would question whether he really was decent with his own daughter, because God, this guy, I mean, I can't even imagine what you must think in the morning when you wake up after you spend the night forcing to do things with animals, and they die, and you put them in acid buckets. Like, how do you wake up and actually live with yourself? there's how I can't even begin to imagine. But
Well, it's difficult. It's difficult because a lot of the times when you do wake up, and because of the way that the substances were working, you're very fuzzy and you have this fuzzy memory, and then you think to yourself, is that actually what I remember? Is that correct? You second guess yourself, and then because you've been groomed and told you never talk about this, you be a good girl, don't say anything. If you say anything, this is what will happen, and this person will have this, and the threats get wider and bigger and worse. You just don't, and then you start second guessing yourself, and you think, oh my word, did that really happen? Did that happen to me? So you do start second guessing yourself, and you just keep pushing it and pushing it further and further back to the back of your mind, and you just don't think of it. But the good thing is that because my love for animals was so intense that luckily they only did a few things with me, and then they realized that I was his ward, if you like. That was the one that was looking after me, my handler, and they'd have to ask him for permission. If they were going to use me for anything, he'd have to give his permission first. So he was very, I think he had a degree of sexual jealousy, because as much as he was getting ready to be able to take any sort of sexual virginity from me at a certain age, he was getting annoyed if people were getting too close to the mark, or if things were happening, he wouldn't allow it, because he knew that his own finale, he always used to joke, and he said, you're going to say I've lost my virginity, but at least you'll know exactly who's got it, and that will be me. So it's a bit of a different one.
Well, I hope that he left, at least I hope that he left his daughter alone. No child deserves that, that's for sure.
No
When you
blood
talk
child, no.
Yeah, exactly. When you talk about, I want to just go back to what, talking about the First Nation people, like the Khoisan, the Native American people, Aboriginal people.
Yes.
There is most definitely a strong desire for Indigenous people. And I know also from, let's say, the African people, a big reason they will also target them, their connection to spirit, their ancestors, the earth, their very, very strong, powerful spiritual connection. And you look at, they have an absolute rhythm with the earth, the way they dance, the way they move,
Yes.
the way they sing. I mean, I tell you something, I love dancing. And I mean, and that comes from me as a kid growing up in the Karoo with my Xhosa friends, and all we did was dance. I mean, all we did was dance. I'll never forget that. I used to go up to the compound in the afternoon where the staff lived, right? And then April, his name was April. He was the guy that was in charge of the cattle and the dairy and everything. And he had a guitar, a black guitar,
Oh,
a tin guitar that he
wow.
made himself. And he would sing to me. He would serenade me every single day. He would sing Chantelle. I'm not going to sing on a terrible voice, but he would sing my name all the time. He would sing to me. And as he'd see me walking up to the compound, he would start singing, and then the little kids would start dancing. And
Lovely.
we would dance for like the first, I don't even know how long. And you know, I am so blessed to have had that in my life, because
Very.
where I am now, I can see, as a non-African person, I mean, I'm a white African, okay, but as a non-Indigenous African person, there's a distinct difference in the way we relate to Earth. There is a distinct difference in the way we connect spiritually. The African
Yeah.
people, and to
Definitely.
have, and I think it's the same with the Native American people.
Mm.
It's the same with the Aboriginal people, all the indigenous people. If you look at it like that, and let us never forget the white people are also indigenous. You go back to the Celts, right? The
Yeah.
Irish and the, I mean, dancing, music. I mean, hello, everything. If you look at the first people, it's all about rhythm and dancing and connection to the earth and nature. That for me is the thing that I've noticed they've most targeted. Now, I don't know,
Yeah.
is that something I'm sucking out of thin air, or would
No,
you
I think
agree
you're right. I think you're right
to it?
because I was horrified about how many of the indigenous folk, and I know with the Khoisan breeding program that he had, and he had it, squirreled away up in the mountains somewhere. And I'd hear about, them talking about, is this one a Khoisan? Could this one be a Khoisan? How can we work this out? And they had their own doctors, and they were all working. And then suddenly that child or that person gone, and you think, where did that one go now? And when you sort of sitting in the back of a bucky or in the back of a taxi, and you've got a combi, and it's a big white combi, and you've got yourself and all these other particular types of children that look very special and are vibrating and are full of light, then you kind of realize, hang on a minute, all these are Khoisan, all these have Khoisan in their background. All of these have, some of them even have different types of tribes in their background in South Africa. And you kind of look at this and you start thinking that you've been sitting and playing and chatting with these other children, but yet they've literally disappeared into thin air. And you think, now what's happened with it? Where did they go? Oh, if they've taken them back to Nutsi, further up the coast, and because that's where their parents are, they've taken them to Nutsi, and it's fine. It's nothing to do with you, but they've gone home. That's all you get told. They've gone home.
Bullshit.
Yeah, it is bullshit, but this is what you get told. And I mean, I was the troublemaker. I had, this big mouth, and I never shut up. And I got clapped a lot. I mean, I've got lots of scars on the face. I just get a backhander, and his Masonic ring that he had, he would wear it on his finger, in this finger. And when he used to give you a clap around the face, the ring used to catch you. But he was very clever. He made sure that he didn't put too many marks on the face. I've got other marks on my body in other places, slice marks and things, where they make sure that when there's no more animals that they can take and hurt, and there's nobody else, and believe me, there was nobody else in that entire family that they could have held over my head, because I said to them, all right, you want to do that? You've killed my animals. You've got rid of my horses. You've done all of that. There's nothing else now that you can harm me with. I don't care. And that was, when you get to that point, there is nothing that they can do to you or take away from you or threaten you with. And that becomes very dangerous. And I did, in a way, I became
Yeah.
possibly too difficult to handle. But because I was assigned, and with him, with my handler, he had to find ways to try to just keep me down, keep me under control, until I could get to the point where he knew I would run. Of course he knew I would run, because I got so arsy and so full of it, and I really didn't care. And I thought, no, in that case, I'll rather disappear into the city. Ran away to Joburg, and I thought, you know what, whatever happens to me in Joburg, on the streets of Joburg, Johannesburg, the main city, whatever happens to me in the city of Joburg cannot be as bad as what's happened throughout my life. How terrible is that? That's
Well,
ridiculous.
listen, at least Joburg was still relatively safe in those days. Nowadays, you wouldn't last 3 seconds, babe. I kid you
Probably
not.
wouldn't. But
In
they
those
just see an
days, remember, I
Otani.
mean,
They'd see an Otani with white hair, and that would be it. Oh, it's an old Madala here that's walking down the street.
but on that note, I want to ask you, obviously, when you came to South Africa, you were a teenager or a child, and then you ran away when you were about 16, right?
I
So
was
you ran to Joburg
just before 16, actually.
for, just before
Yeah.
16. Okay.
Mm.
How did you get involved with being the psychic for the government? How did they? How did that? How did you get to go there? Was it through him?
I think on the backside, if I think about what was happening on the backside, because when I got to Joburg, it was like, obviously I was going to be turning in August. I was going to be turning 16, which means that I would have been legally allowed to work. But up until that point, I wasn't allowed to work. So I did things like I was taught how to do roulette, and I was taught how to deal cards, and I was doing pontoon 21. I was doing the poker as well, 7 cards wild, all that sort of thing. For in Joburg and in Hillbrow, there was a lot of sort of underground, background, illegal casinos. That was long before Sol Kersner went with Kersaf and made Sun City and made all these beautiful casinos that he had. That was in those years. That was like way early 70s. There was nothing like that, but you just needed to know where to go. And they all had croupiers, they all had individuals that were dealers, that were all working illegally, including me. And because I was very tall and had very long hair, you had to wear a long dress with no underwear. You were not allowed to take anything into the casino. Nope, not allowed. And you had to just have nothing, and you had to stand like one of these, I don't know what they call them, these stick insects like this. And they had to make sure that you had nothing on. You had no cameras, you had no speakers, you had no nothing, you had no money and no ID, no nothing. And then they would allow you to go in and take up your table. And then the pit boss would come around and he would do another check to make sure that you were not trying to hide chips somewhere or put them under your boob. If you could hold a pencil under your boob, that meant that you could carry out a few 1,000 Rand chips. That was it's like, okay. And then they'd say, the one time they said to me, "Can you hold this pencil under your boob?" And I'm like, what the hell? So I picked up the boob, put it underneath. I said, no, and just kept on falling down. I said, no, not big enough yet. Sorry, I'm not even 16 yet. So that what I've got is what I've got. I'm sure it'll grow, but I can't hold a pencil. And for years I thought, what the hell are they asking me if I can hold a pencil under my boob for? And then one of the other ladies who also had long blonde hair, and I had my long hair, I said, did they ask you to hold a pencil under your boob? And she said, yeah. And I said, why? Waarom? And she said, don't be so stupid. I said, why? What is the reason? She says, because then you can hold the chip underneath the boobs. That's why. And you can walk out with 2 grand hold under your boobs. That's why. I thought, yeah.
You've got to have like how your boobs hold it together.
Yeah, because you've got nothing on. You've got nothing on the bottom, nothing on the top, and you think, and so when we were in our lockers getting ready, I said, what? And she said to me, yeah, she said, someone was bust taking out 2 grand's worth of chips. I said, Lord, how big is her boobs?
I was gonna say, it sounds like that you're happy you got a bit of the Cooper's droop going there, right?
Yeah, well, that lady that had it, she was like a double F or something. I thought, whoa, okay. They had a rule, no tits on the table. So, but I didn't. Mine was too small. I couldn't lean forward, but that was the rule: no tits on the table. And the pit boss, if they saw your boobs coming forward, you could see the pit boss. No, fuck them, fine, get them off the table. But I didn't have that problem, which was fine. And my hair was really long, so because you stand behind your cubicle where you're dealing, which was fine. But you would see the pit bosses go after the ones with the big boobs. And they used to get a lot of trouble because obviously they had to pick the boobs up, have a look and see what's underneath them. And I'm like, oh, Lord.
That was just an excuse to have a good old feel.
Maybe that's possible. But we were all very young. Most of us were working illegally. I was.
Possible. Possible. Well, that's probably all the more reason why they wanted to give you a good old feel, babe. But
Well, this is it. Yeah.
So this was in Johannesburg. These were like, obviously, we're going back into the 70s, 80s something. And by now we know there's no legal gambling in South Africa at all. So Kurzner, Sun City, only came in, I think, in the 90s, end of 80s, beginning of the
Yeah.
90s. But before that, there was that casino at Papututswana. We used to go there, like just across the border from Joburg, just the
Oh,
other side of Pretoria. I can't remember the name. That was actually there before. But so obviously there would have been illegal gambling dens.
of course.
But who were
Yes.
the people? And now you obviously were not there at these illegal gambling dens, working as a croupier, etc. Through your handler. You'd
No,
already left your handler then.
I'd
So you
already
then,
run.
how
Yeah.
did yes, how did you get involved in the shady side of Joburg then?
Well, the shady side was a huge underbelly of Joburg,
Yeah.
Hillbrow, all of those days. But in those days, Joburg had started pushing out towards sort of Parktown, Rosebank, out towards Houghton, and then you get Killarney. And then when they started building the Santon Sun, and then they started building Santon City, the big shopping mall, that became a bit of a hotbed because you had a lot of South African investors, but you also had a lot of overseas investors that were wanting part of the Santon City offering because it was a very good offering. And what happened was these people used to come to the ranch. Now, the ranch was there was an off ramp, trying to remember what the off ramp was from the highway. There was an off ramp that went up towards, it's the ramp that you get on before you get to Santon City. There was on the left-hand side, there was a very big plot of land where they had this huge facility, beautiful, beautiful house, big old house, walls all the way around it. Now that was a huge illegal gambling joint, but it was also running the CSA, SRA. That was part of it. And when I was working in Hillbrow in the underground gambling joints there, they kept on saying to me, "Oh, Mr. So-and-so from that ranch place would be very interested in you." And I thought, and when you get older and you've been involved with all of that nonsense for so long, you're automatically on high alert all the time. And when somebody says, "Oh, Mr. So-and-so there would be interested in you going and dealing tables there," and I thought, yeah, I know exactly where that's going, because I bet you anything you like, my fixer and my handler have got little paws in there. So I just used to say, no, thank you. I'd rather just take, extra shifts, whatever you've got here, because I lived in Hillbrow at the time. And that's how it started. And these individuals then started coming into the Hillbrow facility and then go to Café de Paris and then ask, will you ask her? I had a different name that I was using at the time, I was Sasha. Will you ask Sasha to come in? Because I never went by my own name, because they trace it back to him for sure. Absolutely. If I put my real name in, that's it. I would have been picked up, gone, and somebody would have called him and said, guess where she is? This is where she is. This is the underground facility she's working for. Da, 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 da. So I thought, come up with a name, use that name, and that's the end of that. So I used to use Sasha. And they said, oh, Mr. So-and-so wants to meet you, and he's at Café de Paris, which was in Hillbrow in those days, upstairs. And so what I would do is I would finish the shift, and then I'd go and I'd be at the bottom on the street, and I'd look up to Café de Paris, and I'd see them, because they'd like to sit towards the windows and look out, etc. And I'd watch and I'd have a look and see, do I recognize him? Do I know him? Is he part of that fixer, finder, handler type of group? And if I even got a sniff and thought, if I was bristling and my energy was saying, then I just wouldn't pitch up. I just wouldn't go. Not going. And then I'd go back to work for my next shift, and I'd say, oh no, I fell asleep or something like that. No. So that's how that started. But I did go to one or two of the meetings. and one or two of the meetings were asking me, this person does this, and we know that you could do this sort of work. Is it possible that you would do this sort of work? And then you kind of realize, well, firstly, how do they know I have that ability? Secondly, do you think they know what my real name is? And thirdly, what are their energies telling me? Is it something that I can make a difference with? Is it something that I can pressurize the energy, pressurize it in such a way that it will do some good? And that's kind of how it went on for at least a year. And sometimes it was a good call, and sometimes it wasn't.
So how did they know? You obviously, they knew you had a gift, a psychic type gift, right? Obviously, that news would have gotten around with your friends and people you were working with.
Yeah.
So is it through that then that the illegal gambling dens that you got involved with our ex-president, or no, let me not say presidents, cabinet ministers in South Africa, and who were obviously then all involved in the illegal gambling scene
They
at the
were,
time?
yes.
Even though, I mean, they like, they are, I'm just so happy. They can be so happy because I really want to punch one's lights out round about now. When we are being sitting in this country at the time preached to about church, and we weren't even allowed to see, there was no pornography. I mean, I'm not for pornography, I have to tell you, I'm not. But anything like that, there was no nakedness. Any girl's boobs had stars on the nipples, right?
That's right. I remember that.
Pornography, pornography. There was no Scope magazine. All you saw was the girls with stars on their nipples.
Stars on the boobies.
Church was forced down our throats in the
Yeah.
most disgusting way. The NG Church is the epitome of evil in this country. And because the NG Church and the Nationalist Party, who was Puk Botha, the child pedophile, Magnus Milan, the Minister of Defense at the time, who's, I have no doubt, it was either him or Pick that did that to the Bird Island boy. I say, actually, Pick.
I say Pick too.
You know what I'm saying?
So I think it's
so
Pick.
these are the guys. So these are the guys who are running our country back in the 80s, in the apartheid era, hanging out in illegal gambling dens, hooking up with underage girls. And then obviously, so you got to meet and know them. And so they got to ask you about what your skills were and how you could actually use these skills. So talk to us about some of the jobs, remote viewings, whatever you did at the time, and who was it for? Name those names. Throw them out there, loud and proud. Throw out those names.
I think the best one, I call it the best one because for me it was very interesting. It was very exciting, and it's the first time actually at that age that I'd ever seen anyone get so excited about what I had written down and what I had picked up. And it was one of those that, again, pardon me, I got all arsey because I was feeling that I wanted to get back to work, and they'd sent someone to the underground casino and gone to the pit boss and said, oh, so and so did the booth on the side, they want to talk to her, because they had these lovely, it was very, very lush, beautiful place, and they would say, oh, we wanted to go and see that chap. I think that whoever that was sent out was somebody that had either come from maybe Pick's office or one of the other offices, because everybody was like bowing and scraping to him. Everybody was like taking him free drinks and platters of little nibblies and foods and things like that, and a couple of knickknacks and things. So from that point of view, I was there when my shift was finished. My pit boss pulled me and said, Mr. So-and-so over there, He needs to have a word with you quickly before you knock off. But we'll pay you for it. That's fine. Just go and do that, and then you can go and get changed at the lockers and then go. I said, okay, fine. So I went over, and at the work environment, to be clear, in the work environment, because nobody knew my real name, and most of the other girls that were working in the pit as well, in the casino, nobody really, because we were all getting paid illegally, we would just get a little packet, and we'd be able to see our little packet of our monies in the safe. I saw my own packet of money in the safe a lot of times. And it just had my sash on it because nothing was going through the books. There was nothing. We were paid cash in hand. Everything was a little packet of cash. That was it. So I thought, oh, well, my packet of cash for this week is going to be better than it was last week. So I went to him, bearing in mind, all you've got is this very thin, very tight, not see-through, but very tight. And there was nothing. He knew I had no underwear on at all. And I just said to him, yeah, you've called for me. Pit boss has said you've called for Sasha. Is there something that's wrong? Is it something that you need? What is the reason? And he said, no, it's nothing to do with the casino, but it's come to our attention. We know. And I thought, oh, here we go. We know that you have this type of ability because you've done X, Y, and Z for somebody else. I said, well, how did you find out about that then? How did you know? Bearing in mind, I've now already turned 16 and I've already started moving and changing my life. And he said to me, well, we just want to know something about this area. Is it possible that you could have a look at this and then give us the information that you see when you're on your downtime and when you're nice and quiet in your little flat that you're in a room? I only lived in a room with a lovely old lady that used to look after me. She had one room that she could hire out, and she hired it out to me. And that was like, it was about, I think it was about $80. And that, for me, that was a lot of money in those days. It's seriously, I mean, people laugh when I say I paid 80 rand a month to my little old lady landlady, and that included everything: my water, my lights, the room, washing, ironing, and 1 meal a week. 1 meal a week is what I lived on. And I had 1 meal a week, which was every Friday. She would cook, and then I would sit with her, have that meal, and that's all 80 rand got me, nothing else. And then there was a phone in the hallway, and you'd have to put coins in it if you wanted to use it. And I never used it because I could never afford to use the phone. And he said to me, he says, we know where you live in Hillbrow. I'm like, what? And I said, really? You know where I stay? I said, where exactly do you think I stay then? And unfortunately, he gave me my exact address. And I thought, oh, no. So I said, tell me, what is the job? What do you want me to have a look at? Who is it for? He says, I can't tell you who it's for. If we just keep to the usual, we'll give you the reference number and the coordinates, and you go and tell me what you see. And I thought, oh, all right, then let's do that. And I just kept asking him, how did you find this out? And he would not reveal any of his sources. So I thought, you know what? I'll get rid of this chap. I'll get rid of him. Give me the coordinates. Give me the reference number, the target number. I will go and do this. And he made the arrangements. He says, right, I will come back in 24 hours, same place, in your next shift. Come and see me, and we'll give you some money for your trouble, and tell me what you see. Write everything down. And that's what I did. Turns out, bloody coordinates is only about a whole coup that was that they, South African government, had got themselves involved with. And it was a whole set of nonsense that was happening in LM. So Lorenzo Marx, crossed the border. And there was this whole stuff happening in LM where the government had got themselves really heavily entrenched in the background politics of LM, Lorenzo Marx, Mozambique. And
Mozambique.
It's Mozambique. And he referred to it as LM. And this is what LM was. And he had, when I took him all the information, I said this, and this. And he was like, oh, and you could see he was getting all excited because they couldn't get information out of LM, out of Mozambique, because of what was happening. And then he had said, how many people did I see mass exodus across the border into SA. And I'd said to him, I said, well, actually, with all of this, I keep seeing hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people walking with their children with just their own possessions in their two hands and getting to try to get across into South Africa and paying people to smuggle them into South Africa. And, you know, I haven't followed what happened to LM and Lorenzo Marx and Mozambique and everything that happened during that time. But the SA government had a long history over a long period of time, and they wanted to know what would the fallout be. And I think at some point, based on what I'd seen and given to the representative, and then later what happened, I think that they made some sort of a deal with Mozambique to help the refugees that were coming, because I'd said how many hundreds of people were going to the border to get out.
How interesting is that? Because if you look at South Africa's crime statistics, right, you have to know that the highest crime rates are not committed by South Africans. They are committed by foreigners that come in here. And the highest crime statistics are committed by the Mozambicans and the Zimbabweans. Yeah, when you're looking at because the Zimbabweans are very well educated. If there's one thing Robert Mugabe did, he made sure his people were educated. They might not have had food or anything, but they got an education. So the Zimbabweans will often be used to operate the whatever it is they're doing, but then the Mozambicans are the ones that are actually the killers. So they will be used. Yes, the Mozambicans will be the ones that are. My sister was attacked in her home a couple of years back. 5 Mozambicans. She was supposed to be dead. The guy had a gun at her head. He pulled the trigger. It got stuck. She took a mirror and she hit him with the mirror. No, it was horrific. Horrific. The violent crime in this country is predominantly committed by Mozambicans.
That's amazing.
And Zimbabweans.
Yeah. And he kept on saying to me, did you get any transmissions in Portuguese? And I'm like, what? Like I don't speak Portuguese. And I mean, I was very young then, so I hadn't learned other languages. I mean, I was barely managing Afrikaans. And I said, I got a funny little saying where every time they were going to go through to an area, there were these guards saying Kekashpa. And I remember it to this day because I thought that's a very weird saying to be saying. And I said, I don't even know what Kekashpa means, but that's what I kept seeing with these guards at the border. So he said, yeah, then that is correct. That is Mozambique. And I said, well, why am I hearing another language? And he said, because sometimes in Mozambique and going across the borders, when I was RVing that, they are speaking a Portuguese language. So I thought,
yeah,
okay.
It's Mozambican.
Mozambican Portuguese. I'm not quite sure. It just sounded different. So that was the first time. And I think because the contact that they'd sent out to the illegal casino had gone back with what I mean, those days, I mean, I didn't have a typewriter or anything like that. I just handwriting everything as I was doing the RV session. You know, I had the target number at the top. I had the date. I had my code name. And then I would say, you know, we always write down the target number. We always write down how are you feeling at that time. And at that time, I was feeling peaceful, tired, because I was. And then you also say in the top of the form where you are as a female, where you are on your moon cycle. You'll say mid-cycle or on-cycle or past cycle or, you know, ovulating, whatever you say.
None of your fucking business, actually, cycle.
Yeah, but that's what they ask you, and then you draw a line, and then you start with what's the images and things. Yeah, you mean but it's common now. You got to say it at the top. So I did all the housekeeping. I know, it's none of your business. But yeah, none of
Uh,
your beeswax. But yes, that was what I had to do. And he took everything that I'd handwritten and all the little pictures that I'd drawn, and I drew like a picture of the road, and it was filled with potholes and the road, and then there was this little housey on the side, and these people, and then that kikashba, I don't know what that means, and I just wrote it phonetically because I didn't know what it meant. And I said, well, there it is. That's it. That's what you've got. The exchange of money took place. And I thought, wow, that's it. Job done. Mate, he's gone. He's off doing what he's doing. That's it. I'm finished. Ha! That was just the start of it. I
Did
think if
they,
I had
were
failed,
they
it would be better.
forcing you? Did they actually end up forcing you to do this work, the psychic work for
Eventually,
them? I mean,
eventually, yes. Yeah, eventually they did. They'd send one of these black vehicles to where I was staying, and then Mrs. F, she was tiny, just tiny little old woman. She'd open all the chains and she'd see these official people, in their, uniforms and whatever, their hooters and hooters. And she'd say to me, she said, Beverly, the police are here for you. And I thought, yeah. Yeah, but they're not police. What are they? My foot. And then I'd go into the little lounge area, and she had this um, paycock floor, which was a lot of the old apartments in Hillbrow. I had them. It's like little strips of wood, and then all the wood is together. And over time, the wood comes loose. So when you're walking on it, goes click, 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 click. You sound like a horse. And she'd hear me coming, and she would say, well, she's on her way, don't worry, she's coming. And then I'd say to Mrs. F, they're not actually police. She says, well, why are they dressed like that then? And she
so
said,
were
what
they? What were they?
everybody
Were they officials from the government who were sent there to pick you up?
That's
So
what the
you
car was. The car was downstairs, and they would just tell Mrs. F, just, we just need to talk to her for a little while.
But
And
who was this though? Who were these people that were fetching you? Did you ever know who they were? Did you ever get any names? Did they ever
I didn't
tell
get
you
names of the
who?
drivers. I didn't get names of the drivers. The one that sat in the back with me, I think that he was probably working for some of the upper echelons of the government. But then what they do is they'd either take you to Pretoria, because I remember seeing out the window all the jacarandas, and then you're going up towards some of the offices. So I knew it was in Pretoria because of the jacaranda trees. But then they keep you very, very busy and chat, and making sure, and you're always in the back with whoever your minder is. But I worked out this is a minder looking after me this side. And I would obviously ask, well, where are we going? Oh, no, don't worry. We're going to go here, or we're going to go there, or we're going to go to some facility. And that's it. They're all very direct, and they don't speak, and they don't really engage with you because they don't really want to form any bond with you at all they want is, what do you see, what is your information, how are you dealing with the target, what else can you see with the, did you expand the timeline, where did you pop in your timeline, because where the consciousness is, you can go up and down, and you can move the timeline either backwards or forwards, and you can go and have a look at what's going on. So they were very direct. They had their piece of paper with their orders on it, and that was it. They would say, right, this is what we're looking at. There's the target. This is what we want you to specifically look at. And sometimes they would do things like, what is the energy or the emotion of that time frame, so that they could look at where was the energy in South Africa. What would the energy of the people manage to take from their leadership? And what would happen if they did this way? But if they didn't do it that way, take that and look on the other side. And what happens if we go this way with that energy? How will the South African people take that? And that was where things started ramping up.
So you were actually also, were you like shifting timelines? Were you playing with timelines in our
I just looked at them. I never played, thank God. I never played with them. I never, because at that time it was always two different timelines, two different opportunities, two different decisions. So they would ask me, look at this, but then look at the two different options. What are the options? The top option of the top echelons and the lower ones. What are the options on the lower echelons for those decisions for the country? And that's how
so
it
were
got
they
to.
really sorry, were they actually therefore then looking for the best decision for the country, the people, or themselves, really?
No, they were
It'll
not.
be,
They
it'll,
were not worried. I would have loved to have hoped that they were looking for what was the best opportunity for the country. But as
no,
time marched on, it was not the best decision for the country. It was the best decision and outcome for the individuals that were at the top. They
yes,
were the ones
exactly.
controlling. It was for them, which is the same reason why later they made the decision to squash all the information about the original Mandela passing away and the substitute being placed in his place. They looked at that and said, right, we know that he's going to pass. We know he's transitioning. We will make the most of this. We will get someone of our own, our person in place. And that's why there was so little out in the public domain and media in those days. Easy for them to squash it and then bring the new
It
Mandela out.
makes a lot of sense because if you look at the real Nelson Mandela that went into prison, okay,
Yeah.
the revolutionary who fought for his people. But I have to say, Nelson Mandela was a terrorist. Let's never
Yeah.
forget he was bombing, the ANC bombed. They were never fighting the military as you should. They were bombing soft targets. They were bombing shopping centers. They were bombing train stations. They were bombing pubs, student pubs, where we used to hang out. I mean,
I remember that.
there was no honor in their war.
No,
Absolutely,
guerrilla
So
warfare.
Nelson Mandela, that's why he was labeled a terrorist. That's what we must remember because he was committing crimes against the people. It
He
wasn't
was.
against the military. It was the people, right? But nevertheless, it would make sense then that he obviously they would have ridden that wave
Yeah.
because if they saw on the timeline that he was going to pass at approximately a certain time, I guess, they would already have brought in the one that was being groomed. I wonder if Nelson Mandela actually groomed his successor. I'm wondering, do you think he actually groomed his successor to take over?
I think there was an
Gibson
opportunity for them
Makandla.
to. Yeah, I think
Gibson
Makhandla.
Makandla.
Yeah, I think Makhandla did have an opportunity to either talk to him or meet with him, because I think when you look at Makhandla's his ways and his mannerisms and the way of speaking and his way that he puts his head, all of his mannerisms, he had plenty of time to study Mandela in prison. He would have.
Yeah.
To
But I
get
mean,
that
it's like
so perfect.
but if it's like a movie, right?
Mm.
You often hear them talk, these these actors, how long they go and study a character
Yes,
and they become
exactly.
that character. It's exactly the
Exactly.
same thing here. I mean, you had to become the man, and this
Yeah,
is the
he
interesting
did.
part because yeah, exactly. How fascinating. But you know what I also find fascinating is that we've had some high level assassinations in this country, right? And I know for a fact that, well, do I know for a fact? That the people accused of assassinating our politicians were actually not guilty of the assassinations. I would love for us to actually maybe do something on that one day. If we're looking at the likes of Chris Hani, okay, Chris Hani was assassinated in on the 10th of April 1993, over
Yeah.
the Easter weekend.
Outside his house.
Outside his house, in
Yeah.
front of his 14-year-old daughter,
Shame.
right? Now, that was not, under any circumstances, a Clive Derby Lewis. Now, let's just recap the situation. Clive Derby Lewis was at the time head of the Conservative Party in South Africa. Now, I have to tell you, I remember listening to him a few times because that was also at the changing of our politics, right?
Yes, it was.
He wasn't far right wing. I mean, he was just more of the idea that races should stay together because there's less conflict in those situations. He says, I'm not hating on anyone else. He says, but I feel that if a white person and we all neighbors live in a similar way, it works. But if you're now going to bring Pakistanis into this neighborhood who are going to be cooking and slaughtering goats the whole night, that is not going to work. So you kind of have to have people in the areas that they kind of resonate with each other, right? So that was, he wasn't even that far right. But they arrested him. And then, of course, the Polish guy, Janusz Walusz was his name. Janusz Walusz was in jail up until last year. He's a Polish immigrant. That assassination nearly brought this country to its civil war.
Yeah.
And I will bet you $10 million right now that those people did not assassinate Hani. Hani was taken out by US Special Forces. I will back that up 100 times because at the time you're looking at Hani and Mandela.
Yeah.
Mandela was backed by America. Hani
Yes.
was backed by Russia.
Yes.
So we know now Africa is the turf war ground for America and Russia, right? So Hani was becoming too powerful for Mandela, and that is why
Absolutely.
he was taken out by there's no doubt in my mind he was taken out by the US government. Of course, one of their little special forces, trigger happy little snipers, shitty wipers, comes here and brings my country to the brink of bloody civil war. I will never forget that. It was over Easter, and we were at my one sister's house, and we'd been walking out somewhere. And we walked into the house, and I saw my two brothers-in-law standing in front of the television set. And they were staring. And the one said, OF, okay? And I said, what? He said, Chris Hani has just been killed. I went, what?
Yeah.
He said, now we've got shit. I will never
that's it.
That
Yeah.
as long as I live. And
it's very
what
interesting.
makes me sick is that little idiot who pulled that. Hey, I want to just say this one last thing. That little idiot who pulled the trigger, because he is an idiot, he's a coward. He does not belong on this earth, because if that's what you're going to be doing to a man in front of his child over Easter weekend, right? You've got a special place in hell waiting for you. But I mean, within an hour, that guy was on an airplane again, out of here, back to America or wherever, right?
Yeah.
And leaving this country on the brink of civil war. But they were very clever how they did that, because instead of making it to be like a South African who did it, like a flippin' right-wing RV beer guy, they made it a foreign national. They made him a foreign national. That's the only reason why this country did not topple into civil war, because they made it. They made the assassin a foreign national, Janusz Walusz, Polish immigrant, and the one who supposedly masterminded it was Clive Derby Lewis. Please, man, that man died in prison. Or I don't know if he died in prison. I think he came out. But they would not let Walusz get out, eh? They would not
No,
let
they
Walush get
wouldn't.
out. Walush got out a year ago, and he's back in Poland.
Of course, that's what he should be. But the unusual thing is that the whole aspect of them being able to say that it was a foreign national, they actually also had, because there was the Chinese and the Russian that were negotiating with Krasani at the time. And the Chinese had said that they would provide infrastructure, funding, and that they had agreed then, in those days, Hani had agreed that they would allow a certain amount of Chinese special forces and military to come and help to stabilize the country. But then Russia was very annoyed with that, and they didn't want that to happen. So there was that own secondary power play between the Russians and the Chinese dealing with Krasani. And then when they said it was a foreign national, they had a foreign national Chinese person that was special forces trained, set up as a person to be the full person. This side, the Russians had a Polish person ready to fall on his sword and be the person that goes to Chuki, that goes to prison for it. And all of this had already been agreed and was sorted out from behind the scenes, because they had said, extend the timeline. If we take out the key person, the CH person, which was eventually, I worked it out, was Krasani. If we take the CH person out,
so they referred to him. They referred to him as a CH person. Were these conversations you were privy to, by the way?
They were only code names of CH, and I thought, who's CH? And at that time, I was more interested in making sure that I could make my rent, which was 80 Rand a month, and then making sure that I could at least, buy extra food, put some stuff in the fridge, and start finding a way around things. And this CH person was part of all of those issues. But I had already, years before, made sure that I was able, in the 70s, I was able to start getting myself established. It took a very long time, because I had to be very careful who I spoke to and what sort of jobs I was doing. Because at that time, in the 70s, I was working illegally, obviously. But late 70s, once I turned old enough, once I turned 16, I managed to get my employment number, and I could then legally work, which then changed, because then I was working at night in the casinos, but during the day I was working in Sandton for a magazine, which was really nice. But then I found out the person that gave me the job at the magazine was like this with my handler. And I thought,
I was going to ask you that.
I spent all this time trying to stay away from him, and then I go and apply for a job through the newspaper, go all the way to Sandton, meet these people, meet the lady that was there, who was head of subscriptions, and meet the guy and meet the other one. And I thought, it's just going the way I wanted. And then I got the job, got there the first day, picked up everything, just started doing the training to work out I'd never worked in a magazine before, so I had to learn, obviously. And he said, I spoke to Patrick. And I'm like, what the hell? And you could see my whole energy. And I said, David, how do you know him? And he said, yes. He says, when I noticed that your employee number came through with your proper name on it, he said, yeah, I phoned Brother Rhodes. And I said, oh, you won't believe it. I've got your eldest here that has applied for a bloody job. Lovely.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. So I was going to ask you if you actually had anything to do at all with your time when you were dealing with the internet, with the politicians. If he actually had any hand in that. Did they pay you for your services?
Sometimes they paid me. Sometimes they paid, sometimes they didn't. It depends. When did they send the car? Because by that time, I'd already decided that I need to bring somebody else into the fold, so that I would have at least some sort of backup. And I'd met a really nice man actually in the building that I was staying in, but he was about 30 years older than me. And he was very, very sweet Italian type chap. And he was sort of saying to me, his name was Beryl, and he was saying to me, I can see there's a lot of trouble going on with you, but maybe what you need to do is try to find a way to meet someone, get married, move away, get out of this, stop working in illegal casinos, and just put everything that's happened to you, put it behind you, and try to start a new life if you can. And that was his advice. He's a very sweet man. And he used to pop down and he used to look after Mrs. F as well, the old lady. He used to pop down and make sure, do you need me to, I'm going shopping, do you need me to pick up something for you? Really lovely chap. And eventually after that, I decided, well, obviously he's got tabs on me. He knows where I work. He went back to brother and said to brother, yes, give her the job. I know where she is. And that's it. We'll keep tabs on her that way. And that's what happened. So as much as I was thinking, yay, I've managed to get away. I managed to get away for maybe, 7-8 months. I was under the radar. They didn't know where I was. They didn't know who I was, where I was staying, because they didn't know Mrs. F. All of that. And I thought, right, so here we go again. Same SH1T, different day. So I knew no matter what I was doing, no matter what job I was being sent on, whether it's that type of job or the other type of job, he'd have little fingers in everything. You can't, the Rhodes family, even in Australia, I have a client who recently said to me about what the Rhodes family were doing out there. And I've only found that out this week. This week, I found it out in Sydney and Perth and all these areas, how entrenched the Rhodes family are there. So what chance did I stand of being able to get away from them? So yes, he did have a lot
Dennis. Hello, Dennis. We just say hi to Dennis here quickly.
Hi, Dennis.
But it's actually, it's so true, because the Rhodes family they're very entrenched. I mean,
very.
Do they have like family here, like that Peter Daniel Rhodes? I mean, have they all left? He didn't have any more kids, family, etc. that are now living in South Africa?
No, he didn't. He did. He married. He married 2 other women. Let me just think. Yeah, there was. Unfortunately, he married a lady that had 2 daughters. I didn't go to the wedding. He asked me, did I want to come? And I said, no. But I said, so how many children? First thing out of my mouth was, so how many children has she got then? And how old are they? Yeah. So here we go. And I thought, you know what? No. And I was just ready to.
I would love for those children to step forward at some point. The stepchildren of Peter Daniel Rhodes, prolific pedophile, ex-sales director of Marley Roof Tiles, head of child trafficking rings in South Africa. Disgusting. Oh.
And see if they can come forward with something. Yeah, because I just looked and I thought, I'm not getting involved with it, because I know of old they won't believe you. They won't believe you. And I think Claudia was so in love with him and so enamored by him, because such a narcissist, but this is a diamond of a man. This is amazing.
Yeah.
And I did speak to her.
So charismatic, right?
So charismatic, so gorgeous. And by that time, he had the salt and pepper going on, and he's like tall, and he looked like a Cary Grant type person. And he would command the room when he went in, because he could. And she just fell for him hook, line, and sinker. So there was that one. And she had, I don't know how many children she had, because I didn't do anything with her ever. And then the other one was I think her name was Patricia something or other. And he married her with the two smaller children that were just at the right age, ripe for picking. And I thought, oh my God, are you mad? But you can't, because this external gorgeous man with this very charming way, and everybody falls at his feet, everybody loves him, and they don't know why. It's like, I know why, because of all these rituals that they do every week. No surprise there. And these two women, they both married him. The first one, the Patricia one, unfortunately for her, she came down with the big C and she passed away. And very quickly after that, he got the next one, which was Claudia. So that was the next one. So yeah, I know he married twice, but he never created any extra children with either of them. They never produced any additional children because they already had their own children. It's the way pedophiles are. They won't marry somebody. They won't marry somebody that doesn't have children. There's got to be access to kiddies.
Yeah, absolutely. Beverli, wow, yes. Another fantastic conversation. And as always, it's so fun hanging out with your mama on a Monday night. So nice to have our Monday date with you, Beverli. Yes. All the way from Americano right now.
All the way from America. Yeah, from Florida. Very hot, and here it's sort of mid-morning. So, hence ready to go out. At least it's 79 degrees. Yay! So that's Fahrenheit. So that's not too bad, which means I won't melt out there.
Well, you all can see I'm a little bit less.
It must be getting warmer.
Like I'm ready
it must be getting warmer. Well, I'm hoping by the time I get out to see you, which will be in November, I'm coming down to Nasa and those areas. I'm hoping, Dame the fuss, holding thumbs, that at least it'll be nice and warm.
Hoping. Don't be ridiculous. There's no hoping. It's already happened. You already, yeah, I saw you on the timeline last night.
Good. I haven't had a look, but
I saw you on the timeline last night.
I'm ready. November. We're going to go hitchhike UFOs across the Kuru. Why not? And
the only thing that's going to be a problem for November at Johan Rupert's farm, where we're going to be landing on our spaceship and getting out and saying, cover this, Johan, right, is the heat. So we're just going to have to wear like tiny little bikini spacesuits.
You mean these little small things, little tiny ones? Yeah, I think it's a good idea. But the Karoo is looks them bottom.
Yeah, that's the only problem here in November in the Karoo. It is hot as hell. It's not even pleasant. It's not even remotely pleasant. I mean, we're looking at major degrees. That's the only thing about November that we might not do is the Karoo, but for sure, Knysna, the garden route, we're going to be doing cool things on this side of the planet, y'all. Just so if you want to get jealous in the meantime, you can, because you should be jealous about that. But in a nice way, jealous. Just jealous enough to want to come join us. That's all. Not to do anything.
I think that'll be fun. Yes. We go UFO spotting in the sky, but because it's a dry heat, I think the dry heat is not as bad as when you walk out here, that heat is like you can feel it on your skin. It's very
weird. Yes.
Yeah.
No, that's you dealing with Natal weather. You're dealing with KZN weather.
Humidity.
Karoo weather is like stepping into an oven. Yeah. There's no wind. There's nothing. You are in an oven. And you are baking. You're baking. You're literally baking. That's what it does. Karoo heat.
But it's just too much fun. At least at night when we're watching the stars, and we're going to do like our meditations, and we'll do all of those where we call those that we know are up there. Because actually, I had it confirmed this week that there's over 200 ships at the moment that are coming in and out of our system and across the earth. And people are sending me pictures all the time of what they're seeing.
I'm seeing
someone this morning sent me a picture of three big silver balls in the sky. And I thought, right, yes, they are there.
They are, yeah. My friend who lives in George, just across the hill from me, every morning she goes, and I told you, she sees them. They do things. And the other morning, Chantelle, get up quickly. She phones me like flipping 6 o'clock or whatever. And I saw them. And she pointed them
Fantastic.
out. Yeah, they're
Fantastic.
moving. This area is like super, super busy with the UFOs and
I
stuff.
can't
So
wait. I'm
yeah,
going to get a t-shirt made saying hitchhiking UFOs. Why
exactly.
not?
And
Why not?
Marushka,
Come and join us.
that's one of my besties on the screen.
Oh,
Okay,
wonderful.
Marushka. She will be joining us as well in the
Oh, for
Karoo,
sure.
Marushka.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to do lots of unusual things and have a great time. So yeah, and I think it would be nice to have a small group come and sit with us to watch the skies. And Danny is doing her GSEC conference very soon here, and I think it's North Carolina in America. So
Yeah,
on the Saturday night, it's a free for all. Anyone can go up to North Carolina to the GSEC event and sit with everybody and watch the skies, because I know for a fact definitely they are coming. So it's a good one.
we will have to hire a spaceship from Danny, land on your Aunt Rupert's farm. And actually, I think the least you can do is have a pool on that farm for us. I think we should make sure there's at least a pool that we can land with, like ice cubes for us.
Or something. Why not? But yeah, so heads up to Danny. Have a great conference. As your two friends sitting here, go for it, girl.
Exactly.
She's so lovely, and have a lovely conference, because she's got I think she's got a chap called Billy, who is one of the bigger speakers. So yeah, it's going to be awesome up there.
Well, you all must have a fantastic time talking about aliens and things. I'm just here in my house being normal.
You're not normal. You're half crystalline structure yourself. Don't try and get away with it. Not allowed.
I'm just being normal, yeah. I wish
No,
you
you're
people
not
would stop being
normal.
so weird. You're all being weird.
Oh, thank you for
Oh
having me
gosh,
on,
guys.
Chanti. And happy birthday to your
Such a
channel for 5 years. And happy birthday to us for having 10 episodes. Yay!
yeah, we episode 10, exactly.
It's episode 10.
And it's absolutely so fun. I'm 5 years old. I'm a big girl now, so I can swear a little bit sometimes too.
Oh, Lord.
And I'm just kidding, guys. But no, seriously, a great big thank you for all of you who support this channel and our shows and all our amazing and diverse guests. Each and every one of them has got such a special story to tell, and each and every one of them has got such an amazing experience in life, and we all just learn from each other. So it's really wonderful that we have our community. And I just want to say thank you so, 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 so much. And Carissa, yes, I like Beverli too. She's quite cool. You see, there's a nice comp for us there.
Oh, that's lovely, Carissa. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah,
And we will
we
let
do
you
bounce off
know
each other.
if Beverli look. Yeah, we do actually. So we will let you know when Bev's going to be here. If we plan anything, I don't know, we will let you know. That depends on Beverli, also Beverli's health, and and all sorts of things. But it would be amazing if we could here sometime November in the
In SA.
in Africa,
SA.
right
Yeah,
here where I live.
well, and also the Owl House. The Owl House is like, oh my God, that's friggin' awesome. Got to do the Owl House. Have to do that. Also have to do Dolphin Bay, because I know that the Star people come over Dolphin Bay quite a lot. Past Sedgwick.
Yeah.
Because I've been sitting there in my car often, and there they are, and you think, you're what, there they go. And I keep watching them. So yeah, it might be we can do something there, because I think there's not that much light pollution at Dolphin Bay. Dolphin Bay is quite clear, but we need to just check it, and then we can do something on the side there and look up. So I think it would be amazing.
Or maybe we'll just take photos and send it to everybody.
Yeah, why not?
We'll do it. We'll just take photos.
This year's Christmas card is going to have a hitchhiking UFO on it. Thank you to everyone in the chat
I
for
look
all the
forward to
lovely
that.
comments.
As long as we look cute in our suits, we've got to look cute in our little outfits. Those little
I don't know
outfits
whether
that
I
we're going to
will.
be flying around in.
I think you'll be
Okay,
fine.
guys.
I'm still sort of borderline old lady side. So
Oh my God. How do you ever even say that? There's just no way that's even possible that you're like old lady. You've got to be joking.
Old
Oh,
lady
the
heading up
youngsters are
towards
still going to
70.
be.
Lord, you crack me up. Oh, genade. Oh, what are you like?
We're going to have an awesome time, guys.
We are going to have a
We're gonna be
great
wearing
time. So come and join us.
we're
Come
gonna-
and join us.
we're wearing really cute outfits. We're going to be looking a lot cuter than the 11-second girls. We're going to be landing on Johan Rupert's farm.
You chuck us off for sure.
Does he know about this, by the way? Should we
Everybody
send
chuck
him a
us off.
memo? We
But
should
at
get
least
him
we
to
can
check his
include
timeline.
we can include all these places. We go UFO hitchhiking at the Owl House. We'll go do Karoo one, and we'll do Dolphins Point because we know they pitch up there a lot.
We must get Johan Rupert to check his timeline so he doesn't get a
Yeah, I
shock
must
when we
do
arrive.
that. I must do that. Keep us safe. Thank you, Chanti. Go and have an Irish coffee. Go and have something yummy. You deserve it, girl. Go and have an Irish coffee.
I would have an Irish coffee now, exactly. Don't
Why
tell
not?
everyone. I was only supposed to do that on my birthday. Okay, bye guys. I'll see you soon.
Bye, everyone.